Okay, this is the lecture for chapter 11, which is basic classroom management. And basically, it is putting uh, chapter 5, part 2 into an educational setting. There's some add other stuff, which I'll go over in the lecture. Uh, so um, let me get to the beginning here. Okay. Um, One of the reasons why, the biggest reason why teachers quit teaching is because of discipline problems. I mean, kids have been gone way, in my day, if I got in trouble with school, my mother would say, "What did you do?" Nowadays, parents say, "What did you do to my kid?" So discipline in the last 5 years is the biggest reason why teachers have quit teaching. Matter of fact, almost 2/3 of the time of teaching a class is on control. Can you imagine if you had that all that time to actually learn something? Now, the chapter's on classroom management, so there's a difference between classroom management and discipline. Uh, Discipline focuses on punishment; it's after the fact. Whereas classroom management is on prevention. It uses positive reinforcement, it uses negative reinforcement, it does use some punishment, but it's trying to solve problems before they occur. Um, and the book starts out with 6 preventive strategies. These are strategies that teachers can do to reduce discipline problems in the classroom. They may not work, but they to stop all discipline problems, but they will really help reduce the discipline problems. And that's what they call preventive strategies. Um, and I'll go in order. The first one is the book calls it caring for children. That teacher should learn students' names and something about them. So you should be, especially in primary teachers, um, it's very important that you know the kids. So I mean, you know what they like, you know what their family background is, so you can kind of prepare for that. Um, you know, if you're picking out books and you know Johnny likes dinosaurs, and you pick out a dinosaur book. So these are getting really knowing your students. You know which ones talk, which one causes trouble, and so you can once you kind of know that you can deal with that. And so it's very important that you know your kids and know their names, especially primary. You're supposed to meet at the door and say, "Hey, Sally, and how was your day?" Blah blah blah, that type of thing. Two is rules should be consistent. There is no get tough and then get softer, or get soft and get tougher, and rules should be consistent from day one. Matter of fact, a lot of teachers have little quizzes in their classes on the rules so the kids know them. You people are adaptive. You can adapt to any kind of rule, no matter how bad it is, as long as it's consistent. I always use examples. A baseball player, if the umpire is calling a high strike, then when a ball is high, you swing at it because you know he's going to call it a strike. But if he calls it a strike one play and the next play calls it a ball, you don't know what to do. So you need to be consistent. Rules should be consistent, and they should be consistent from day one. Three is legitimate praise. We sometimes praise kids for breathing. I mean, or give them a medal for just participating. Legitimate praise is when they do something well, you should praise them. And the old saying is praise in public, punish in private. And you should be also a good paper doesn't make you a good person, or a bad paper doesn't make you a bad person. You need to be specific on, okay, you didn't do well on this paper. Females tend to take it much harshly than males do. And you should use descriptive language rather than judgmental language. Number four is humor. Um, and I don't mean giving a dialogue like like Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever the case may be, but um, if something happens that's funny, and if you're racing the board and the racer goes flying off, that's kind of funny. So instead of turn around and when the kids laugh and look at them mean, laugh, show you that you're human. Don't take yourself too seriously. Uh, Humor can diffuse a situation. So the use of humor is a good way to help situation. Withedness is probably the one I want you to really want to know the most, and that on the test, that's the one you're going to get a lot of. And withedness is knowing your students, being up to date, and being prepared. It's the eyes and the back of the head. Um, Teachers who have withedness know who's going to disrupt at seat work. Uh, when they write the substitute, they tell the substitute that watch out for uh, Johnny because he's going to do this, or watch out for Sally, she's going to do that. So withedness is teachers who know what's going on, even when there's like if the teacher's working with one student, he or she knows what's going on in the back of the room, because most problems occur during seat work. And so a teacher needs to be aware of what's going on in the classroom. And the best teachers have withedness. They know everything's going on, even though they're not looking directly at that situation. And finally, class environment. You should make your students proud of their environment. And there's some terrible classrooms, old and the walls are chipping. But when somebody does something good, you should put that up on the wall. Make them proud of that situation and change it often. You have to do posters for education classes. If you leave a poster up too long, people don't even stop looking at it because they've seen it so many times. Now, those are preventive strategies. Then the book goes on a list of corrective strategies. These are unfortunately, after things happen. And remember, good behavior is learned, so is bad behavior. So that's why we need behavior modification to correct bad behavior. Now, one of the first things is reasoning. You should always give a reason for punishment. Because believe it or not, some kids don't remember why they got punished. That's why a think list I gave out in class. I think I have it on the handouts. And the think list is having students write down what they did wrong, why they did it, and what the punishment is. You'd be surprised that kids will punish themselves a lot more than you would actually do. So when you reason, you're saying, okay, this is what bothers me, this is what's wrong, and the kids know, okay, I did this, and this is the reason why. So you should highlight personal consequences and give them reasons of why you're using this or that type of punishment. Positive reinforcement, obviously, is deliberate and systematic. You have to know when to use it, how often to use it. Also in your handouts, I have an example of contingency plan, which is used in reinforcement, where you make a contract with a student and say, if you do your next 2 homeworks on time, you get to use the computer, or you get to do something the kid wants to do. A contingency plan is you write it out, the student signs it, you sign it, and sometimes you can send home to the parents so they can see. But that's basically using reinforcement. You're supposed to ignore bad behavior and reinforce good behavior. Most of the time, that's pretty good. But if Johnny's slapping Sally around, you can't ignore that. I mean, you got to directly accept that. One of the problems ignoring bad behavior sometimes is students think that it's all right to do that behavior. So you have to be kind of withedness and know as a teacher what to do, when to do it. Then the book talks about extinction, and that what that is. We already know it's behavior stops due to lack of reinforcement. So you extinguish bad behavior, but you have to control the whole environment. If Johnny's cracking jokes and the 2 kids in front of him are laughing, you can do all kinds of stuff. He's still getting reinforced. You need to talk to those 2 kids and say, don't you dare laugh. And so pretty soon, there's no reinforcement, and Johnny will stop. But you need to control the whole environment. Then the book talks about the Premack principle. The Premack principle is, and I don't know why it's the grandmother rule. Eat your spinach, then you can have dessert. I don't know why Premack got his name on it, but anyway, it is, if you do your math drills, then you can have 10 minutes of free time. It's putting a situation the kids don't want to do with a situation they do want to do. And you make sure they do the thing they don't want to do first, and then you reinforce it. So Premack principle was putting a unpopular behavior mix it with a popular behavior. If you do your homework, then you go out there and shoot baskets with your friends. Okay? Then the book talks about intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards is it comes from internal, the most powerful. Learning for learning's sake. Students do stuff because they want to do it. I always imagine if I said an ed psych, everybody gets an A. You don't even have to show up. How many people would actually show up to learn something? Well, I got the A. Oh, heck the heck with it. So intrinsic is from internal. Extrinsic is external. Used like grades, comes from the teachers, from the parents, significant others. And we as teachers think grades are powerful things, but over the years I've been teaching, some kids don't care about grades at all. And so, and they have a point, 10 years from now, excuse me a second, 10 years from now, who's going to ask what grade you got in ed psych? But don't, now I just screwed everything up. You're not going to study now. But anyway, extrinsic is rewards from the outside. Then the book talks about token systems. And this is used a lot in special ed classrooms where you reward appropriate behavior with some kind of token that the kids can exchange for whatever, pencils, notebooks, crayons, cookies, whatever the kids want. You kind of have a reinforcement menu and you have a little, closet full of goodies. And if a kid stays in task for 15 minutes or 15 seconds, if you're a really bad kid, then you reward them. Like a coupon at Pizza Hut is a token economy, right? So it's rewarding certain behaviors by giving out tokens. Then the book talks about forms of punishment. And basically there's three I want you to know. One is a timeout, which you already know what it is. Taking a person out of a reinforced situation, put them in a non-reinforcing situation. Usually if they're acting up in math, you don't take them out of math because that's reinforcing. You take them out of something they do like. Hopefully you can find something during the day they actually like. Reprimands is something that we haven't talked about. And reprimands is kind of like Theodore Roosevelt, famous policy, foreign policy, when he said, speak softly and carry a big stick. So reprimands is you talk very quietly to the kid, very calm, sedated, but you say, you keep doing this, I'm going to hang you. Well, you can't say that, but you know what I'm saying, is that you give them some bad consequence. So reprimands are, talk directly to the child and then follow up with some kind of consequence. That's kind of like your homework for homework 6. You put some rules and you have a consequence, and they don't follow that consequence, you have a stronger consequence. And then the last one is response cost. And response cost is very simple. If you reinforce good behavior, you punish bad behavior. So if I have a jar on my desk in class and the kids do all turn their homework, they get a marble, and if they're all quiet, they get a marble. If they all line up correctly, get a marble. And if we fill up the jar, we have a class party or whatever the case may be. But if the kids act up, you take a marble out. So you reinforce good behavior and you punish bad behavior. Now, the last thing about Chapter 11 is the book does a great job of describing how a classroom should be set up. Different ways of arranging the class, circles, semicircles, things like that. And all that is great, and it's true. I'm not disputing the book at all. The problem is that when you get large classrooms, and that's where we're moving to larger classrooms, it almost negates all the positives. So they're great in like 2015 to 2022, but after that, the more students you add, it takes away from the seating arrangement. Just so I want you to know that, you arrange the classroom directly affects student behavior, but when the classes get too big, it kind of negates that. So that's Chapter 11 in a nutshell. I covered all the important points. You can get that rest from your textbook. All right, have a good day.